Solo Leveling, Ragnarok. By Dang Du. Chapter 26. The revelation of the lavender-haired demon's heritage filled the crow-masked demons with greed. Radiru? The Radiru clan? The corners of their mouths stretched wide into sinister grins. There are still demons left from the Radiru clan? Ha ha ha. It's time for a feast. The blood of demon nobility was precious as all but one noble family had been wiped out, leaving only lesser demons in the realm. Make sure she doesn't escape. The demons swarmed Essel, the Radiru clan demon. Their frames expanded dramatically. Their elongated claws oozed malevolent magic as they aimed to take her life. How dare you, lesser demons? Essel gracefully evaded their every attack, wielding her spear without hesitation. Nevertheless, the lesser demons relentlessly continued their assault. Ha ha ha. The world has changed too much for you to look down on us. Who would have thought that we'd get to hunt demon nobility? Ugh. Outnumbered, Essel gritted her teeth fiercely. Her stamina had long since been depleted due to years of being chased by countless demons in the demon realm. To make matters worse, she had been forcibly summoned to Earth in her true form, further limiting her strength. The solution to break these constraints was through possession. The lesser demons had possessed humans by seizing their physical bodies, and their powers were then enhanced with stardust. It was a battle between a weakened demon noble and a gang of empowered lesser demons. The outcome was clear and inevitable victory for the latter. Ha ha ha. She's pure-blooded. Pure-blooded. We can make pure stardust with the noble blood. Young monarch. Suddenly, Baru's voice quietly reached Suho's ears. Suho had slipped away during the sudden onset of the battle. Very well. It's time. He nodded, exchanging glances with the hunters in the cart. The hunters nodded in return, discreetly getting to their feet. This was unexpected, but it might work out in our favor, Suho thought. Their plan was as follows. 1. Infiltration. Suho, dressed in a crow's mask and a black robe, would infiltrate the factory by pretending to be a demon. 2. The ruse, he would then cause a disturbance inside, attracting the demon's attention to himself. 3. Escape. With this opportunity, the hunters, disguised as bloodied individuals, would rescue the captured people from the factory and make their escape. However, the unexpected demon brawl unfolded before Suho had a chance to cause the disturbance. But we move according to the plan. The last part of the plan was boosted by the fact that Dog Yun and the hunters in the cart all possessed speed-related skills. Suho and the hunters swiftly disappeared from their positions simultaneously. In the blink of an eye, the rescue party reached the chained humans and immediately cupped their mouths to silence them. After a quick exchange of glances, the captured understood the hunters' intent and nodded with muted fear. Clank. Suho forcefully tore apart the chains that had bound them. It's done. Dojin's heart raced with the immediate desire to escape. Now we just need to run away with them. Just as he lifted one of the civilians onto his back. Huh? One of the lesser demons fighting with Essel of the Radiru clan noticed them. What are you doing there instead of fighting, young one? A hint of doubt peered out of the demon's eyes behind the crow mask. Instead of answering, Suho shouted, "Run!" The timing was on their side as each hunter, carrying a civilian on their backs, sprinted at maximum speed towards the exit. Where do you think you're going? A few of the demons fighting Essel rapidly blocked the hunters' path, and their malevolent magical energy surged toward them. Suho shouted from behind, "Don't stop, keep running." His words filled the hunters with determined resolve and intensified their speed. The faster they went, the closer they were getting to the demons. We believe in you. They trusted Suho and continued to run. Arise. Suho didn't betray their faith in him. He had already placed shadow goblins near the exit. Their arms shot up from the ground and clamped onto the demons' legs, causing them to stumble. What is this? The demons were shocked beyond belief. However, their surprise was short-lived. Shadow goblins were vicious in nature, and they mercilessly slashed at their ankles with butcher knives. The human bodies the demons currently inhabited were exceptionally frail. Even a minor injury to their Achilles tendon rendered them helpless. The demons collectively shrieked in agony and collapsed on the spot. "Here's our chance." The hunter swiftly passed by, ultimately managing to escape the factory. As they stepped outside, Dog-Yun turned to look back at Suho, who remained behind. "Are you really going to be okay?" Suho understood why his teaching assistant had looked back, and he simply smirked and nodded. Bang! The iron door closed in front of him. The escape had taken just 3 seconds. It took another 2 seconds for the demons to tear apart the shadow goblins and stand up once more. A total of 5 seconds had passed, and Suho was satisfied that everything had smoothly gone to plan. "Now. It's my turn." Suho quickly counted the number of demons that he could see, omitting the lavender-haired demon who had been summoned. A total of 9. The problem was that each of them was similar in skill to the young demon he had barely defeated earlier. "It's doable." Suho's eyes dropped to his own shadow. "Arise." Before infiltrating this place, he had summoned the shadow soldiers he had previously extracted in the shadow dungeon. Brokey. At that moment, a massive shadow emerged in front of Suho. Roar. Brokey, level 1, night grade. The colossal hyena beast stood before him, his entire body covered with boiling black steam. Suho had initially planned for this creature to be the disturbance, but now was an even better situation for hunting demons. Brokey's fierce roar shook the factory violently. What is this? The demons who had been relentlessly attacking Essel were greatly bewildered. Why is Brokey here? No, something seems different. The demons were already familiar with Brokey, the former secret leader of the Hyena Guild. The notorious guild had been their primary supplier responsible for kidnapping and delivering people as raw material for Stardust. While the Shadow Beast's entrance had significantly improved the situation, there was still a problem. Based on Suho's experiences fighting Brokey, then later, a demon, it was clear that the hyena was stronger than a lesser demon in a one-on-one scenario. But considering they were up against 9 demons, it seemed like the odds were stacked against them. Baru! Suho shouted, calling his trusted ant beast. A malevolent energy radiated from all parts of Baru's small body. Baru activated, Ruthless Command. Skill, Ruthless Command increases Brokey's stats by 50%. Skill, Ruthless Command has a side effect that causes Brokey to be afflicted by a curse of madness. Brokey lunged at the demons without hesitation. What? Thwack! The hyena beast's massive front paw swung like a baseball bat, sending the demons flying mercilessly. Then with a triumphant twirl, Suho's swords descended upon the demons now impaled on the concrete wall. Storm Slash. Skill, Storm Slash has activated. Suho's body whirled like a hurricane as he relentlessly attacked the demons. Lesser Demon has been defeated. Lesser Demon has been. Huff, huff. Suho's intervention allowed Essel, who had been enduring a fierce battle alone, to finally catch her breath. But instead of feeling relieved, her eyes widened as she witnessed Brokey's presence. Could that beast be? Her eyes focused on the monstrous shadow beast as he drove the demons away with the weight of a tank. As far as Essel knew, there was only one being that could summon a creature like that, the same being that single-handedly annihilated the demon realm. The human had slayed every demon that stood in his way, eventually toppling even Baron the Demon King. The terrifying and illustrious name. Is Sir Jinwoo really here? Having exuded a fierce determination for so long, her face suddenly brightened. She frantically scanned her surroundings, searching for Sung Jinwoo. Where are you? Sir Jin. But the person she found wasn't the one she expected. Woo. He wasn't the man she knew, but the new face bore a striking resemblance to a younger Sung Jinwoo. Huh? Essel tilted her head in confusion. Long time no see, Baru said as he subtly revealed himself in front of her. Who? Baru? The daughter of Erdairu was surprised by Baru's appearance. Why are you so small? The ant beast she remembered was more terrifying than any demon. He was always at the forefront alongside Sung Jinwoo, slaughtering his enemies. She was perplexed as the ant she knew had now transformed into a cute little figure no bigger than a fist. But she wasn't the only curious party. "It seems like you've become considerably weaker." "What happened?" Baru asked. "Hee. I've been through quite a lot actually," even as blood dripped from her. Essel laughed softly through her pain. Baru chuckled at her pitiful appearance. "Your calm personality in the face of death hasn't changed. It's got me this far. What on earth has happened in the demon realm?" Before Baru could finish his sentence, Essel collapsed right on the spot. All the tension left her the moment she saw him. She lay sprawled on the ground, whimpering as she called out his name. "Baru, I really feel like I'm about to die. Do you think you can heal me?" "No." "Why not?" "It's a waste of mana." Baru's swift rejection was all too obvious. "I see. You've grown weaker too, huh?" "Not at all." "Nope, that's not it," Baru retorted indignantly. As the two began to argue, Suho continued to fight the demons head-on. "Lesser demon has been defeated. Lesser demon has been defeated. Vulcan's horn devoured the demon's soul. Vulcan's horn devoured the demon's soul." The battle had completely shifted in Suho's favor. Baru's ruthless command had boosted Broki's stats by a staggering 50%, a much higher amplification rate than Stardust's. Moreover, Suho grew stronger with every demon slayed. Devoured demon souls, 3. Devoured demon souls, 4. Effect: Destructive Desire, increases physical damage by 33%. Effect: Destructive Desire, increases physical damage by 34%. Level up. Level up. Gah. As Suho's blade decapitated the last demon, he reached level 20. Ding. Your level has exceeded 20. The shop purchase feature is now available. Huh? Suho cocked his head, perplexed by the message. There's a shop system too? Chapter 27. Ding. A quest completion message popped up before Suho. Quest: Rescue the survivors has been completed. Rescued, 7. Looks like they managed to escape from the dungeon safely. Suho nodded, thinking about the hunters who had carried the survivors out. They had promised to get to the surface as quickly as possible to avoid being captured by the demons, and it was now Suho's turn to escape, but on his own. But before that, you've received rewards for completing the quest. Would you like to accept the rewards? Y/N. Accept rewards. Ding. The following reward will be given. Reward 1, attribute points plus 3. Reward 2, 1 random box. A random box? The line caught his eye, especially the omission of cursed that had appeared in a previous reward. He wondered what could possibly be inside as he accepted both rewards. Suho invested all the ability points into the strength stat, and shortly after, a small random box appeared in his hand. I wonder what's inside. To his surprise, the box contained several shiny gold coins. You have obtained 700 gold. Gold coins? Did it give me 700 gold for rescuing 7 survivors? It's surely not just a mere coincidence, he thought, seeing as he received gold as soon as the store function was activated. A realization dawned on him. It seemed like the system his father had passed down to him was showing him kindness. Thank you for the allowance, father. The gold coins went straight into his inventory, where at the bottom a notation appeared. 700 gold coins. Open the store, Suho summoned, and a new store window appeared. Store, buy/sell. The store window was quite simple. Just as Suho was about to check the list of items he could purchase. Young monarch. Baru suddenly appeared and inquired, how will you deal with that demon? Suho's gaze returned to the female demon who seemed to be dying on the ground. Right, I forgot she was here. An enemy's enemy was a friend. She had been fiercely fighting off the lesser demons before he intervened, so he refrained from killing her for the time being. He knew he had to make a choice, but not before asking some questions first. I saw you talking to her earlier. Are you two acquainted? Suho asked the ant. That's right. The Radairu clan was the only family that didn't oppose my liege when he subjugated the demon realm. The Radairu clan had acknowledged their weaknesses and volunteered to become Sung Jinwa's subjects. But if it wasn't for Jinwa's capricious nature, their surrender would never have been accepted. He had annihilated their kind on the battlefield during his war with the monarchs, killing all their nobles except the Radairu clan. The lesser demons Suho and the others had encountered today had fled from the fight early like cowards and hid from the monarch of Shadow's sight. His Highness also captured the demon named Essel and used her as a guide. Excuse me. The demon lying on the ground called out to Suho with a fading voice as she bled out. I'm sorry for interrupting your conversation, but can we save me first? I think I'm really about to die. A rumbling sound suddenly echoed from Essel's stomach. Huh? As Suho and Baru focused their eyes on her, the demon patted her hollowed-out belly with a look of embarrassment. I've been hunted for a few years, and I didn't have any time to eat. The death she spoke of was from starvation. Suho ultimately decided to spare Essel. He had several reasons, one of them being to experiment with the effects of the potion he bought from the shop. Item: low-grade healing potion. Acquisition difficulty, E. Type: consumable. This is a potion that can restore your health. When consumed, it slowly recovers 500 HP. It can be stored in the inventory, but it cannot be transferred to others. Can't be transferred to others? But what if I feed it to someone directly? Suho approached Essel and poured the potion into her mouth. As the potion trickled down, her wounds began to gradually heal. Wait, you are a healer? But more importantly, what is your connection to Sir Jinwu? Her eyes stared at him intensely, but Suho ignored her question and focused solely on the potion's effectiveness. The healing speed is a bit slow. It might be difficult to use in the heat of battle. Leveling up is still the best option. After some time, Essel's condition improved to the point where she could move, but the growling sounds coming from her stomach were still quite loud. I can't muster any strength because I'm so hungry. You had the strength to fight earlier though, Suho joked inwardly. The second reason Suho saved her was because the energy he felt from her wasn't particularly impressive. In other words, she was weaker than him. Even after recovering from the potion, he sensed that her energy was C rank at best. He found it odd since Baru had told him that demon nobles normally possessed S rank level strength. However, due to a myriad of complexities beyond Suho's current knowledge, Essel's power had been reduced by half. But no matter how weakened she is, I can't simply take a demon outside this dungeon. The thought made Suho eventually choose a different method. Would you like to enter the shadow dungeon? Enter. Suho took Essel to the shadow dungeon where only shadow soldiers could freely enter and exit, making it an ideal prison for demons. But to the contrary, Essel's reaction was quite bewildering to him. Oh, I'm back in the world of slumber. The demon began to express her amazement rapturously, taking in the monochrome world with glee. She continued to marvel at the sight until she turned to Suho and asked, how can you possess the world of slumber without being the monarch of shadows? What's your relationship with him? I'm his son. Son? You're Suho? Essel exclaimed in amazement, showing her surprise. Oh my goodness! The little baby has grown so quickly. Humans really grow fast. Suho tilted his head in response. Do you know me? Some of his long-sealed memories had returned to him, but he couldn't remember every face from his youth. After all, his father had commanded countless shadow soldiers, making it difficult to remember each one individually. Suho turned his attention away from the excited demon and asked Baru, by the way, what's the world of slumber? It's another name for the shadow dungeon, Baru explained. The terminology used to describe the world ruled by Suho's father was quite diverse: the world of shadows, the realm beyond death, and the land of eternal slumber. The other monarchs also had their own worlds they ruled before they were defeated. However, Monarch of Shadows was unique in that he was able to encompass his entire world within his own shadow. So, the Shadow Dungeon is the world that I rule? To be more precise, it is the world the Monarch of Shadows rules. Strangely enough, this world split into two when you were born. I guess it would be more correct to say it multiplied. Suho was satisfied with the answer and decided it was time to move on to more important matters. He looked at the lavender-haired demon and asked straightforwardly, "You said your name is Essel, right? Well, since I saved you, now it's your turn to spill the beans. What are the demons up to on Earth right now? What has been happening in the demon world?" Well, Essel reluctantly began to speak. After the war ended, things were good at first. Sir Jinwoo had eliminated all the other monarchs, and my family became the top demon clan. He even let us stay in the world of slumber when we had nowhere else to go. At that time, the demon realm had already lost its monarch and was torn apart, drifting through the dimensional rift. As such, the Monarch of Shadows allowed the Redairo clan's demons who had helped him to reside in his own world. But it seemed that the arrangement had been short-lived. But we ultimately couldn't become residents of the world of slumber. Because of your tainted souls? Exactly. He knew that the tainted essence in their souls couldn't be extracted as shadow soldiers due to mana contamination. We had no choice but to return to the demon realm. Well, to be precise, it summoned us. The demon realm? Yes. A red gate leading to the demon realm suddenly opened up in front of us in the world of slumber and began pulling us in. Having lost its monarch, the demon realm had torn apart and was drifting in the dimensional rift. A world without a monarch was a world yearning for a new one. It was only natural for the demon realm to call upon the Redairo clan, the only noble demon family left in existence. However, the world of demons was maintained by the law of survival of the fittest. The dominant ruled with an iron fist, and without the assistance of the Monarch of Shadows, the Redairo clan lacked the power to control the demon realm. Once the dust of war began to settle, the demons who had been hiding from the Monarch of Shadows re-emerged to challenge the feeble authority of the once 20th ranked Redairo clan. If we get rid of the Redairo clan, we can become nobles too. Let's hunt the nobles and suck their pure blood. It will amplify our magic power. The lesser demons united as one to launch an attack against the Redairo clan, and being the weakest noble family prior to the death of their original monarch, they lacked the power to quell the rebellion. Weak demons don't deserve to live in my world. We were caught and had our blood drained. Now, I'm the last noble demon. So, that's why you became so weak? Yes. I nearly died several times, and I've suffered significant blood loss. That's why I'm so weak right now. Baru, who had been listening, chimed in. Demons are a race that clearly distinguishes hierarchy based on power from the moment they're born. That's why they differentiate purebloods from mixed bloods. The foundation of their strength lies in the quality of their bloodline, so they become obsessed with consuming it. It sounds similar to the situation with Gray. Suho nodded. From what he'd heard, the case didn't seem that different from the Fong clan. Essel nodded enthusiastically and added, exactly. That's why demons fear their own weakness to the extreme. Whether noble or not, it is the weak that get eaten. Which makes the lesser demons that summoned me even more strange. Strange? Yes. They came to Earth and possessed the bodies of humans weaker than themselves. Making one weak is not very demon-like. Not very demon-like. Suho sensed what Essel was trying to convey. Wait, are you saying that there might be someone in charge of these demons? Yes. The way they summoned me was also peculiar. We demons excel at destruction and killing, but we're ignorant when it comes to magic, especially ones that create dimensional holes. So, you're saying that someone taught them that? Baru let out a long sigh. Could it be the Monarch of Transfiguration? Who now? Gate magic was a method frequently used by Yogyamunt, also known as the King of Demonic Specters. Demonic Specters. Suho contemplated, putting together the pieces in his head. Are you suggesting that the demon realm and the world of demonic specters have joined forces in secret? There was another variable at play, Stardust. The drug needed mist burns, which in turn needed blue mist magic from outer universes that could dissolve the boundaries between dimensions. It seems like the forces of outer universes are using these lost soldiers for something more. Yes, I think so too. Baru nodded in agreement as his expression turned grim. Perhaps? The followers of Iterum may have already infiltrated Earth. They concluded that an invasion had likely begun. Chapter 28. Hold on. Suho had a sudden revelation. All his recent tribulations were connected: the Guanxan field, the Hyena Guild, and the Soul Station field. They all shared one common denominator. They all originated a year ago, Suho muttered. Ah. Now that you mention it, outer universe scums may have been infiltrating Earth for the past year. It dates back to last year. So, how about we go in reverse? We might find something if we start investigating dungeons, gates, and guilds that appeared a year ago. New demons would help enhance Vulcan's horn, and any discoveries or traces of outer universes would also be valuable. It's a win-win, Suho thought. Oh. The young monarch is truly exceptional indeed. Hee. It feels like it was just yesterday when I was teaching you addition and subtraction. Suho ignored Baru's flattery and decided to focus on something that had just crossed his mind. That's it. The most talked about place in South Korea from a year ago sprang back into his mind: the site of a horrific incident. Magok. It keeps getting worse and worse. Han Jae-hyuk couldn't help but be astounded as he delved deeper into the investigation reports of the Hyena Guild's headquarters following its destruction. Mountains of paperwork surrounded his desk at the Hunter Association's surveillance department. It seems that a complete report on the Hyena Guild's wrongdoings would require several hundred pages at least. Criminal charges had been forwarded to the hunters in the police force, while the Hunter Association focused its investigations on matters that fell outside the jurisdiction of law enforcement. One prime example was Stardust. Strictly speaking, the mana enhancer wasn't classified as an illegal drug, and its use wasn't prohibited. But that didn't mean the unknown substance could be left uninvestigated. The Hunter Association had been continuously probing into the production of Stardust and the parties responsible for its production. They finally managed a breakthrough when hunters discovered a strong lead from the Hyena Guild's headquarters, a ledger detailing how much Stardust the Hyena Guild bought and the time of purchase. It also contained records of the buyers the thugs had sold it to. The evidence was damning. It was clear that the Hyena Guild was one of the main distributors of Stardust. The association's investigators felt like their hard work was finally paying off, as the promising new trail could eventually lead to the discovery of Stardust's manufacturers. Who knew that people went into debt to buy Stardust? The team leader realized. It's a risky investment for sure. Stardust helps low-ranked hunters raid higher-ranked dungeons. They could potentially pay off their debts quickly if it worked out. But it seems they kept coming back to the Hyena Guild with the money they made for more Stardust. In the end, the house always wins. Evidence was one thing, questioning was another. The majority of the hunters listed in the ledger were marked down for being missing for the past year. It was likely that they became feed for Brokey, who had been pulling the guild's strings from the depths of their dungeon. But the most peculiar detail of the investigation was the names of the missing marked with red lines. This group included a considerable number of non-hunter civilians who were in debt. Who are these people? Something seems off, doesn't it? Jae-hyuk suggested. Sir, take a look here. One of his team members presented him with a document. If you look here, the dates reporting large purchases of Stardust for the Hyena Guild coincide with the dates these individuals were reported missing. It's a perfect match. That's true. What do you think the connection is? Jae-hyuk mused. Could they have exchanged people for Stardust? People and Stardust? The team leader flipped the pages of the ledger back to the beginning. Eventually, he discovered an important fact and his eyes widened. I'm certain. The ledger clearly shows the quantities the Hyena Guild bought, but it doesn't have any records of how much they paid. It means that they didn't pay any money. So, they didn't pay with money. If they did exchange people for Stardust, why? Let's find out right now. The Hyena Guild didn't produce the stardust themselves, so the ones who made it. As Jae-hyuk and his team began to delve deeper, an urgent phone call came through to the surveillance department. "Sir, we've received a report. Can it wait? I'm busy with something right now. Someone has found a stardust factory. Put me on the line, right now." The emergency described in the report was already under control when Han Jae-hyuk and his team arrived at the Seoul Station field. "What on earth happened here?" Jae-hyuk asked. The surviving captives from the factory and the hunters who had rescued them were sitting in a corner, exhausted. "It's a long story," the assault team captain said, and began to explain everything that had happened. "A factory for producing stardust was down there? Come again? Demons?" The explanation was helping him slowly put together the evidence from the ongoing case he had been investigating, but he didn't have the time to sit down and ponder calmly. "You're joking? A guy is fighting the demons down there on his own?" Jae-hyuk asked in disbelief. "Yes, he said he was going to buy us time to escape and told us to go first." "Oh. Please, hurry inside and help him." Do-gyun had been pacing nervously for some time, worrying about Suho's safety. It was clear that he had struggled to defeat the first demon they encountered, and the thought of him up against another 9 had tortured the teaching assistant. "Suho assured us not to worry, but I'm sure the bravery was an act to put our minds at ease. That fool. He was willing to sacrifice himself for us, just like the Hanguk University dungeon." Having heard all their explanations, Jae-hyuk's stern eyes turned toward the dungeon as he gripped his weapon. "Understood. We will go in right away." His weapons were in fact 2 enormous steel shields, each capable of covering half of his body. As he held them in his hands, a transparent aura enveloped his entire body. "Iron wall defense?" Do-gyun recognized, albeit belatedly, who Han Jae-hyuk was. He was a well-known C-rank tank with exceptional skills that had attracted offers from several renowned guilds. The part-time collector also finally noticed that the hunters standing behind him seemed equally impressive. "Thank goodness. Suho is saved." Han Jae-hyuk, looking as dependable as ever, led the association hunters into Seoul Station. But before he descended, he suddenly turned around at the entrance and asked, "Oh, by the way, what rank is the hunter down there?" Well." The assault team captain hesitated for a moment, then said with a somewhat awkward expression, "He's an E-rank collector." "What?" The captain felt like their judgment was unfair. The hunters from the association looked at him as if he had left a newborn child down there on its own. "We should look into Magok once we get back." Having finished all his tasks, Suho left the factory. But he couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret as he made his way back to the surface. The source of his regret was Brokey. "It's a shame I used him like this, considering all the trouble I went through extracting this powerful beast as my shadow soldier." An extracted shadow soldier lasted roughly about a day. Once that time passed, the extraction would be automatically released, returning the shadow to nothingness. He rued his choice to use him against the lesser demons, since there was no knowing when he could obtain another magic beast of his level. "Shall we take a quick spin around first? There are still plenty of lizards nearby," Baru suggested. "Sounds like a plan." While they were at it, they decided to thoroughly sweep the dungeon for everything they could find. Brokey. Roar. The hyena lost his ability to speak when he became a shadow soldier. However, his intelligence remained intact, so there was no need for lengthy explanations. "Bring them all to me," Suho ordered. Brokey had an excellent sense of smell, and he used it diligently to hunt and kill all the lizards hiding throughout the field dungeon. He then brought their corpses to his summoner, neatly arranging them in front of him. Suho's level was so high that he wasn't able to gain much experience from the lizards anymore, but every little bit counted for something else. Money is money. We have so many lizards. I think a bite wouldn't make a difference. You have a big bite for an insect. Insects must also eat, Baru playfully snapped, tilting his head at Suho's joke. Suho, busy hunting lizards with Brokey, was now wearing his crow mask again. He had used it as a disguise earlier, pretending to be a demon youngster. But this time, he was using it for a different purpose, as the item came with a small perk. Item: Crow Mask. Acquisition difficulty: E. Type: Junk. A mysterious mask used by demons. When worn in dark places, it brightens your field of view. You can store it in your inventory or sell it at the store. They are better than night vision goggles. He was able to identify objects in the dark thanks to his increased sensory stat, but the crow mask made his night vision more clear and focused. Recognizing the mask's benefits, Suho made sure to bring all the masks he could find inside the factory. But unfortunately, the choice would come back to bite him. It's a demon. Huh? Suho blurted. What? Baru cried. The association's hunters had found Suho wearing a crow mask. The information they gathered from the escaped hunters specifically mentioned the crow masks the demons wore. To make matters worse, the gigantic and sinister-looking Brokey was standing right next to Suho. Attack! No, wait. Before Suho could say anything, the hunters launched a sudden assault aimed directly at him. Ding! A quest has arrived. Ding! Emergency quest: defeat the enemy. There are hostile entities nearby with murderous. Their violent intent triggered an emergency quest. No, this isn't right. Reject, reject. Just as Suho was urgently rejecting the quest and about to unmask himself. I'll take care of this. Han Jae-hyuk suddenly leaped forward and swung his shield towards Suho, while the other hunters immediately rushed to attack Brokey. Wait a minute, let me explain. Suho pleaded. Iron wall defense. Jae-hyuk shouted, sending a transparent shield aura rushing towards Suho like a massive barrier. Young monarch. Baru called frantically. Suho withdrew the hand poised to remove the mask and clenched it with determination. First, I need to subdue them. In an instant, a black aura enveloped his fist, and he forcefully drove it through the transparent shield, pressing down on him with a powerful blow. Fortunately, a single punch was all he needed. Strength, 45. Suho's attack sent the team leader and his shields flying backward with his body bent at a 90-degree angle. He crashed into a wall in the distance and hung from it, unable to move. Seriously? Suho was also surprised by his strike that his pose remained frozen on the spot. The eyes of association hunters who witnessed the scene widened in astonishment. Did the team leader just... What was that? Crash. The concrete wall Jae-hyuk had been embedded into crumbled down with a crashing noise. His eyes had rolled back from the blow, a clear sign that he immediately fainted. Humans, huh? Well, you have been investing all your stats in strength. Baru smirked in a completely unsurprised manner at the outcome. Suho removed the crow mask, revealing an awkward expression. Why don't we talk this out? The hunters readily nodded their heads. Chapter 29. A minor misunderstanding had taken place, but fortunately, it was swiftly dealt with. The association hunters realized that Suho was not a demon and immediately followed directions to the factory. So, where are all the demons? They arrived on the scene to discover clear signs of a fierce battle, but were surprised there wasn't a single trace of demonkind to be found. The hunters' puzzled eyes focused on Suho, who awkwardly shrugged and said, haha. I'd like to know too. I wonder if they ran away somehow. Belch. Baru was openly belching beside him, but nobody suspected anything. The summoned beast was the size of a stuffed doll, after all. It seems like they knew we were coming and evacuated. Well, we did arrive rather quickly. We got here as soon as we could once the report came in. Belch. The ant beast's loud belches drew no suspicions. His stomach was bulging, but the hunters just assumed it always was. Still, it's fortunate that we secured the scene. Securing the area was a tremendous achievement in itself. The team had successfully located the factory used to manufacture Stardust for the first time. Furthermore, they uncovered the shocking truth behind the manufacturing process: human sacrifice. Thank you very much, one of the hunters thanked. After they returned to the surface, the association hunters gathered together to express their gratitude to everyone present at the scene, including Suho and Dog-yoon. Thanks to your report, we'll be able to prevent many future crimes. The association and the police will continue to do our best in the investigation, an association hunter announced. Also, you'll all be rewarded for your contributions to this investigation. Suho was chuffed to find out that they gave rewards for reporting crimes. Great. With this money, I can buy some meat for those guys short on blood. Suho thought about the extraterrestrial beings he had left behind in the Shadow Dungeon. Whether they were the last descendants of the Fang clan or the sole surviving demon noble, they were simply hungry refugees to him. Jae-hyuk opened his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling. Ugh. Sir, are you coming to your senses? Han Jae-hyuk groggily sat up from the bed. He was surrounded by white walls and the smell of antiseptic lingered in the air. It was a hospital. He looked at his subordinate with a bewildered expression. Why am I here? You don't remember? You fainted. I fainted? Yes. A single punch knocked you out. I see. The mention of a punch brought back the fleeting memory. That crow mask. Jae-hyuk quickly rose from his bed and shouted, that demon. What happened to the demon? He wasn't a demon. Huh? He wasn't? That's right. He was the hunter we went down to find. The subordinate exhaled deeply and continued, it was a clear mistake on our part. He then proceeded to explain everything that had happened while the team leader was unconscious. Han Jae-hyuk's expression suddenly stiffened. What did you just say? Huh? What do you mean? You said there was a summoner? Who's the summoner? Who else could it be? The hunter who knocked you out, of course. What? He couldn't believe his ears as his face wrinkled with confusion. Are you saying that some summoner kids knocked me out? Me, Han Jae-hyuk? That's the truth. You shouldn't let your guard down next time. And would it hurt to use your trademark skill right away? But I did use it right away. You did? When? I definitely used my skill. It was the subordinate's turn to be confused. Then how did you faint? You're a C-rank tanker. You're telling me. Sir, did you really faint after using your skill? That doesn't make any sense. That guy is an E-rank hunter. E-rank? Are you kidding me right now? Han Jae-hyuk glared at his team member with a stern expression. Why would I risk making a joke right now? I checked his hunter license, he's definitely an E-rank. His name was Sung Suho. Sung Suho? A face suddenly flashed through Han Jae-hyuk's mind that matched the name. Coincidentally, it belonged to the new E-rank hunter he had measured for mana recently. Surely, it couldn't be? You're right. It's him. Look, I'm not trying to be difficult. I was there with you when we measured him, remember? He was the kid from the Hanguk University dungeon. E-rank hero Sung Suho. I can't believe it. That college kid? How on earth is this possible? Han Jae-hyuk exclaimed with disbelief. But his team member responded flatly, there must have been a measurement error. How else would an E-rank hunter make you unconscious with a single punch? You even used your trademark skill. I assume he's at least a C-rank. You really know how to rub it in, don't you? Anyway, I apologized on your behalf. I also suggested that he visit the association later for a re-evaluation. Well, that just about sums everything up. It's time for me to clock out. A man's pride was a difficult thing to restore. Han Jae-hyuk, who usually would have delegated all the work to his subordinates and napped comfortably, sighed in frustration as he watched his subordinate clock out on the dot. Kids these days. An E-rank due to a measurement error? It was a rare but acceptable mistake. Mismeasurements were an unfortunate occurrence from time to time. As he found himself alone, he tried to recall the moment he fainted to answer the bigger question on his mind. Clearly, he was a summoner. Given the presence of a large summon that resembled a hyena right next to him, it was undeniable that he was a summoner. But how? How did he possess such extraordinary power? Could that strength be some variation of a summoning skill? Han Jae-hyuk stroked his chin and remembered his first encounter with the young man at the hospital. He looked like a fairly decent-looking, ordinary college student. He was tall and with a decent build, fairly nondescript. His first impression of him didn't scream hunter with extraordinary power. Well, we'll find out more as we go. He suddenly remembered giving Suho the same typical farewell he gave to everyone after their mana measurement. Sung Suho, we look forward to seeing your great contributions in the future. A warm smile spread across Han Jae-hyuk's face. This is really something to look forward to. The potential of the college kid and his future filled him with anticipation. Meanwhile, Lee Min-sung was fuming with anger at the Fiend Guild's headquarters. What did you say? How could it just disappear? The factory was functioning perfectly fine. A hunter reported the location to the associations and... Thump. Lee Min-sung kicked the man who was trying his best to find the right words in his stomach. He continuously kicked him against the wall and screamed at the top of his lungs, so what? Screw the association. Do you think I'm someone you can mess with? You took my money, so I want my sh*t delivered to me, right now. Sir, we're victims too. The demons at the factory disappeared overnight without a trace. The rage behind the A-rank hunter's furious stomping was too violent to be considered a simple angry outburst. The man being kicked mercilessly wouldn't have even survived the first blow if he wasn't a hunter. After venting his anger for a while, the Vice Guild Master of the Fiend Guild realized that the hunter was losing consciousness, so he slapped his cheek to wake him up and lifted him by the collar. So, tell me what happened to all the demons. The man gulped. Well, Despite his initial hesitation, he hastily told him everything he knew. Min-sung's brow furrowed as he absorbed the information. So, the factory was discovered by some hunters who happened to be passing by? Yes. It seems that they fought off the demons and rescued the survivors. Does that make any sense to you? Well, the idiots that I have to deal with. Min-sung's anger flared up again as pulled the man's collar toward him. It wasn't a large guild but a team led by a mere C-rank healer? An assault team like that successfully fought off 10 demons? The leader was only C-rank for crying out loud. What makes it worse is that the other 9 were comprised of D-rank and E-rank hunters and collectors. I also... You what? Min-sung barked. I also think none of this makes any sense. The man closed his eyes tightly and shouted at him. To his surprise, Min-sung released his collar and tidied it up as if he had been calm from the beginning. He then asked him with a gentle tone, then tell me what makes sense to you. I suggest that you come up with something a little more useful this time. If you want to live, that is. I have a feeling that the association might have meddled in this from the start. As you know, the association has been relentlessly searching for the source of stardust. It seems like they somehow made a breakthrough and raided the place. Go on. But openly investigating a substance that isn't illegal would inevitably lead to blowback from guilds like ours that accept stardust. So, you think they set up some amateurs as a decoy and pretended to act after receiving a tip-off? Yes. Exactly. Not bad. That does make more sense. Lee Min-sung nodded. Very well. I've seen those demons with my own eyes. There is no chance that they were taken out by low-ranked hunters. Absolutely, sir. What now? Pardon? Do I have to spell everything out for you? Don't tell me you don't have a backup plan? A terrifying aura emanated from Min-sung once again, overwhelming the man. Oh, of course. There is more than one factory. The Seoul Station field was convenient for deliveries due to the subway lines. There are many demons out there hidden all over the place operating stardust factories. All over the place? It's true what the kids say, South Korea really is hell on earth. You're telling me there are that many demons around? Lee Min-sung burst into a sinister laugh and then grinned heartily. I'll only remind you of this once. The only reason I chose to save your dirty group is solely because of Stardust. Got that? Well, oh of course. We're always grateful to you, Vice Guild Master, the man stammered. Then do your jobs properly. A drowning dog that was rescued should know how to repay the favor. Suddenly, hair started sprouting from the man's face, and he transformed into a werewolf. He was a surviving member of the Hyena Guild who was on the run from the association. With nowhere else to go, he offered himself to Min-sung, who he had been conducting business with this whole time. However, a more significant problem was brewing beneath the surface. Darn it, this is bad. I have only a few days left before the power of blood completely vanishes. Hyena Guild members could turn into werewolves after consuming the blood of the Fang clan, but the effect only lasted 10 days. If they didn't consume blood every 10 days, they would not only fail to maintain their beastly transformation skill but also turn back into ordinary humans. The man thought it was best to keep this a secret from Min-sung since he wouldn't spare him if he found out. I need to do whatever it takes before my powers vanish. I need to either find that missing young wolf from Guanxan or discover another descendant of the Fang clan. The two men worked together but they each had their own goals. Min-sung and the werewolf faced each other, each contemplating their objectives. Suho entered the butcher shop with the reward money he received from the Hunters Association. Hello, welcome. The butcher happened to be in the middle of preparing a cut of meat as Suho came in and smiled warmly. What kind of meat are you after? Pork, please. Actually, a whole pig if possible. The butcher looked shocked. No. Make that 2 whole pigs. Chapter 30. Growl. Gray crouched low, keeping a close watch on its prey. Gray, level 4 Fang wolf. While his level had increased slightly during this time, he was still the size of a human hand. However, true to his noble Fang clan lineage, he had grown strong enough to easily hunt a goblin or two. The newfound strength gave him the confidence to strut around lately with his tail held high. But handling 3 goblins or more at once was still a tall task for him, and he quickly retreated back to his small cave with his tail curled whenever a trio came for him. The pursuing goblins, finding the cave too small, would eventually give up the chase and leave. As Gray was getting used to his life in the shadow dungeon, toying with the large but dim-witted goblins, a major crisis emerged when an uninvited guest suddenly appeared. With a careful gaze, Gray discreetly trailed the uninvited guest. The intruder seemed quite formidable, but it appeared that they had no strength left after a long period of hunger. I can do it. His observation spurred on his competitive spirit. Hunting something stronger than oneself was a highly honorable pursuit. Gulp. Gray held his breath, his expression tense, waiting for the moment for his target to show an opening. His heart raced as the intruder began to move closer. I can see everything you're doing, you know. Huh? To his surprise, the intruder's hand somehow emerged behind him and grabbed his behind as he was hunched over toward the direction he thought his target was. Woof. Woof. Having been caught, he kicked his short legs frantically out of surprise. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't escape the intruder's grip, so he stubbornly held with a defiant look in his eyes. Gore. Please, stop struggling. If you weren't Suho's pet, I'd have eaten you already. Tempted, a hungry Essel looked at Gray, upset that she couldn't eat him. Who would have thought that a descendant of the Monarch of Fangs would end up in a place like this? The tiny Fang wolf wouldn't be much of a meal for her, but the blood and flesh of a Fang clan member were invaluable elixirs. What now? Are you trying to get a taste of me? Essel asked playfully. Gray licked Essel's hand that was holding onto his tail, twisting and turning his muzzle to reach further up. Despite his helplessness, he continued to stare fiercely at the demon. You sure are a funny puppy, Essel chuckled. I'm sure it's your instincts. You'd gain a lot of strength by eating me. It's sad that we're in the same boat. Essel was the last remaining demon noble, meaning that she was possibly the only potential successor to the ruler of the demon realm, the Demon King. Essel's pure blood flowing through her body held a precious power unique to their kind. And that would be the same for you. The arrogant little pup in her hand was the last remaining kin of the monarch of fangs and could one day fill his void. Essel suddenly felt a strange sensation. The last remaining heirs of two races decimated by war are gathered here. I wonder what purpose Suho had in mind when he saved us. As the last member of the Ragnarok clan was lost in thought, the tenacious Fang wolf continued to lick her hand. Oh, come on. Stop slobbering all over me. You have entered the shadow dungeon. Right at that moment, Suho and Baru entered the shadow dungeon. Suho was carrying not one but two fresh whole pigs in his hands. Essel and Gray both turned their heads simultaneously. Whoa, the lavender-haired demon cried. Growl. Essel and Baru's rumbling stomachs echoed throughout the dungeon. Amused by the sound, Suho chuckled and extended his arms, holding an entire pig forward. Well, demons like meat, right? We sure do. We like everything but vegetables. Essel quickly tossed aside Gray and received the pig from Suho. The Fang wolf returned in front of her with lightning speed, greedily baring his teeth. Growling. Gray then suddenly flipped onto his belly and began twisting his body. But Essel remained firm. No, get back. This is my meal. Shaking your tail now won't help. Growl. The young wolf and demon noble scuffled over the pig as Suho watched them from behind with a despondent look. I'm surrounded by hungry carnivores. This is delicious. Baru rejoiced. Baru had fervently begun to tear into the other pig Suho had brought, and not even the fearless Gray dared to snatch his food. Well then, bon appetit. Essel plunged her hand deep into the pig's body, and the massive boar started to contract around her hand. Wow. Suho watched the scene unfold with fascination. Baru suddenly appeared next to him and explained, she's absorbing the magic within the pig's body. Demons have a wide range of dining preferences, and demon nobles typically prefer a clean method. Whoa, you caught me off guard. What are you, a bookworm? I am an insect. Baru nodded as if it were obvious. He then turned back to his pig, opening his mouth wide. The ant seemed to prefer a less tidy eating style compared to Essel. Suho chuckled and subtly shifted his gaze. Well then, I should. As the feast was happening, wild goblins, drawn by the scent of fresh meat, had begun to gather around them. Suho reached out his hand, and the closest goblin suddenly rose into the air, kicking its legs. Ruler's authority. A faint smile crossed his lips. Shall we start the daily quest? Daily quest, cleaning the shadow dungeon. 100 goblins, incomplete, 0 out of 100. 10 goblin captains, incomplete, 0 out of 10. 1 goblin chief incomplete, 0 out of 1. A completion reward has arrived. Would you like to confirm the rewards? Y/N. Suho could feel that his stats had improved as he dusted his hands above the pile of goblin corpses. Now, even 100 goblins aren't enough for me to break a sweat. On either side of him, Rocken's Fang and Vulcan's Horn had been planted into the ground. There are no hidden quests like this time. He had downed a few more creatures just in case, but it seemed like hidden rewards from last time were a one-time occurrence. However, the regular daily quest rewards were more than enough to satisfy him. The following reward will be given. Reward 1. Health restoration. Reward 2. Attribute points +3. Reward 3, 1 random box. Suho decided to leave the first reward unaccepted. I'll save this for a real emergency later on. He could restore his health with potions, but they offered minimal healing and a slow recovery rate. In contrast, health restoration allowed for an immediate and complete recovery, perfect for dire situations. I'll invest all these into strength. He ultimately realized that the strength stat was key to becoming stronger. The higher the stat, the higher his power and speed increased. And finally, the random box. This time, it wasn't a hidden reward. Instead, a regular random box appeared in Suho's hands. He opened the box, and a small ring rolled out with a faint clatter. Item: Ashen ring has been acquired. A ring? As Suho retrieved the dull-colored ring, the item description came up. Item: Ashen ring. Acquisition difficulty, D. Type: accessory. Sense +5. It increases the sense stat by 5 points? Suho's eyes widened. It seemed that there was more to the item than meets the eye. The sense stat raised sensory abilities, enhancing one's perception of danger. In other words, it heightened the ability to detect surprise attacks. Suho casually slipped the ring onto his finger. It was a bit loose on him, but it wasn't much of a problem. Item: Ashen ring has been equipped. Sense: 29, +5. The ashen ring vanished from his finger, and the stat boost took effect immediately. Even a regular random box can yield something pretty good. This feels like winning a prize. Belch. While Suho was wrapping up his daily quest, the feast had also come to an end. Essel, who had been observing Suho hunting goblins all along, wore a puzzled expression. She refrained from assisting Suho's hunting session out of politeness, but the mere fact that goblins were wandering around here seemed peculiar. How strange. Essel tilted her head slightly. What is? Suho asked. How did dimensional refugees end up here? Dimensional refugees? The beasts you slayed are the surviving soldiers from the Monarch's War. They were tossed into various places through the dimensional rift. We call such creatures dimensional refugees. In a way, it was an expected outcome. Monarchs were the center of their respective worlds, and without them, the creatures that served them had scattered in all directions. However, this doesn't seem like a mere coincidence. Essel's words piqued Baru's interest. What do you mean it's not a coincidence? Well, you see, breaking through the dimensional barrier is a really challenging and cumbersome task. I'm well aware of that. Otherwise, I would have returned to my monarch long ago. Baru nodded. In the past, one had to be at least as powerful as the monarch of transfiguration to open a gate to another dimension, by no means an easy feat. If even Baru isn't strong enough, could lowly war-ravaged soldiers cross the dimensional barrier so easily? Could it be? Baru's eyes sparkled in realization. Suho also picked up on what Essel was trying to convey and nodded. Is it the blue mist? Correct. One day, a blue mist from the outer universes began to flow toward us and started to distort the dimensional barrier on our side. The disturbance must have intensified significantly. How else could those weakened and wandering goblins make their way into the world of shadows? Essel shrugged, dismissing it as an incredible occurrence. I also agree with that, Rakken's Fong, held in Suho's hand, interjected unexpectedly. Unless they've gone mad, there's no way that those war-ravaged soldiers would have entered a world ruled by the victors of the war. It seems like the dimensional rift has indeed been significantly distorted. As the conversation brewed, Suho suddenly came to an important realization and asked, Baru, let me ask one thing. Yes? Didn't you once say that my father's forces and the followers from outer universes are evenly matched? Yes, that's correct. Both sides are so evenly matched that the Monarch of Shadows is hesitant to come to Earth in person, so he sent me instead. Then if we apply the same reasoning, doesn't that mean the enemy can't also risk coming to Earth right now? Baru's eyes suddenly widened. Whoa. They widened even larger the second time. That's correct, right? Indeed, the young monarch's words are accurate. It's most certainly the case. Baru nodded vigorously as if he were losing his mind. Suho also nodded and mumbled, since they can't come themselves, they've gathered dimensional refugees and sent them here to establish a connection to Earth. In other words, the followers of Iterum were making these creatures do their dirty work. But from the perspective of the dimensional refugees, the deal was far from bad. For them, Earth was like a walk in the park. A place to kill, plunder, and conquer to their heart's content. And one more thing. Suho finally realized the true meaning of his assigned daily quests. Daily quest, cleaning the shadow dungeon. We need to clean up the goblins as quickly as possible and find and seal the dimensional rift they used to come here. Absolutely. If we let the dimensional refugees be, the outer universe scums will eventually discover our presence here. Well, to be precise. Baru trailed off. They'll discover my presence. Suho was acutely aware of his position. I'm my father's only weakness. He had gained another reason to become stronger.